Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
The cost? According to Reuters news agency,
Not
the Philadelphia
in this
Center for
context.
Transgender
There's so many open questions, so we're trying to understand now, but there's no smoking guns yet.
What does it mean to be a woman?
Structural biologist Marissa
The
Sun
latest research is showing that female and male brains do develop differently in the womb,
some of those questions
possibly
that
giving
make
us
us think
females
about
this
how we
innate
see
sense
biological
of being a
sex.
woman.
You also have your chromosomes.
On the other
Your
hand,
gonads, like
maybe
ovaries.
it's our shared
You
sense
have your internal
of
sex organs,
commonality
your hormone production,
that makes us
your
one.
hormone response, and your secondary sex characteristics like breast development, body hair, etc. Those 7 areas of biological.
Florida releases new guidance on gender dysphoria in children, disputes Biden's HHS. Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo said guidance from the Department of Health and Human Services is failing at the most basic level of academic rigor. Hello and welcome back. Hope everybody out there is doing well and is going to have a happy weekend this weekend. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed. Hey, you can find me on Rumble. You can find me on Twitter. I'm on both of those platforms as well. I am on Minds, but I don't post anything there. It just wasn't getting any traction. But let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos on Minds.com. So let's get into this article here. What is going on with this transgender stuff and how is Florida responding? The Florida Department of Health issued new guidance on the treatment of gender dysphoria in children and adolescents, claiming that the Biden administration is getting it all wrong when it comes to treating young people. In response to a Department of Health and Human Services fact sheet that endorses puberty blockers and partially reversible hormone therapy as methods of affirming care for minors, Florida's guidance said there is a lack of evidence to support such approaches. Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo blasts the Biden administration for its approach to this issue, asserting that it is based in politics. Not surprising, everything that Biden does is based in politics. Let's take a look at this fact sheet here. Got it right here. This fact check covers the claims made by the Health and Human Services Offices of Population Affairs. HSS claims that treatments, including irreversible surgeries such as mastectomies and panectomies, improves mental health and overall well-being. Oh, does it now? How come there's so many people who want to untransition then? This doesn't make any sense. The research used to support cannot infer causation. The researchers state as much in the limitations. The researchers stated it is possible that those who historically have higher rates of depression and suicidal thoughts and behaviors are also less able to seek and obtain GAT. What is GAT? It's a hormone treatment? Gender affirming hormone treatment? Okay, that's one of my assumption that is. A systematic review of hormonal treatment of young people with gender dysphoria concludes that low quality evidence suggests that hormonal treatments and transgender adolescents can achieve their intended physical effects, but evidence regarding their psychosocial and cognitive impact are generally lacking. The cited evidence had small sample sizes and medium to high risk of bias. A small study on 44 patients of the United Kingdom failed to show any psychological benefit to puberty blockers on children aged 12 to 15. Well, that's a very small sample size, 44. So I think that maybe we should do some research, but there's no reason to give children hormonal blockers. You're potentially damaging the child just because they have some sort of whimsy. HHS claims that surgeries and other potentially permanent pharmaceutical interventions have been demonstrated to yield low rates of adverse mental health outcomes, build self-esteem, and improve overall quality of life. Really, it has. Here's the facts. A paper published in the International Review of Psychiatry states that 80% of those seeking clinical care will lose their desire to identify with the non-birth sex. That's interesting. 80%. I wonder how accurate that number is. I hope it's way off and it's more like 99%. Anyway, the cited psychosocial overview is a case study of a single patient, and it outlines the author's views. So one study of a single patient, and it's heavily biased by the author. Okay, that's something we should use as evidence to support our claims. The second article cited is an online survey completed by 288 U.S. transgender adults, not children and adolescents. Okay, so that's going to make a difference. In May of 2021, Sweden's Karolinska Institute suspended the use of puberty blockers for those under the age of 18 due to the potentially irreversible consequences such as cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, infertility, increased cancer risk, and thrombosis. Yeah. We try not to mess around with nature, because often nature just like rears its ugly head and says, nope, you can't do that. According to a study in Neuroimage, pubertal development was significantly related to structural volume in all 6 regions in brain regions of interest in both sexes, meaning that the process of puberty is important to brain development. Imagine that. What do you know? I mean, wasn't Michael Jackson on puberty blockers, hormone blockers, when he reached puberty so he could keep his high voice? Look how that worked out. A November 2020 systematic review published in Cochrane found insufficient evidence to determine the efficacy and safety of hormonal treatment for transgender women in transition. Yeah, not surprising. HHS claims that their approach is clinical in fostering better outcomes. That's a weird sentence to say. My approach is clinical in fostering better outcomes. Okay, why would you say it that way? You freak. According to the first resource cited on the OHSA fact sheet of those who received GAT, a greater proportion reported that they struggled to meet basic needs or were just able to meet them compared to those who wanted GAT but did not receive it. Okay, so they're barely even able to meet the requirements. A recent Finnish study reported on the effect of initiating cross-sex hormone therapy on a functioning progression of developmental tasks of adolescents. The psychiatric symptoms this study found that during cross-sex hormone therapy, problems in these areas did not decrease. Okay, so they're finding all these facts that indicate that we shouldn't be messing with childhood development. The second study cited in this section is partly refuted by the third. The third study states that transitioning socially is beneficial for children with GD, gender dysphoria, could not be supported from the present results. Okay, so it's inconclusive. The conclusion of all of this controversy is the current evidence does not support the use of puberty blockers, hormone treatments, or surgical procedures for children and adolescents, considering 80% of those seeking clinical care will lose their desire to identify with the non-birth sex. The importance of puberty to brain development with the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive functions such as decision-making, continuing to develop until approximately 25 years of age, and the potentially irreversible consequences such as cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, infertility, increased risk of cancer, and thrombosis. So you probably shouldn't be messing with your kids' hormones or surgically altering them. This apparently is the Surgeon General of Florida. Here, this man, pictured here. It says the federal government's medical establishment releasing guidance failing at the most basic level of academic rigor shows that this was never about health care. Lepato said in a statement, it was about injecting political ideology into the health of our children. Imagine that. Children experiencing gender dysphoria should be supported by family and seek counseling, not pushed into an irreversible decision before they reach age 18. Yeah, I wonder why there's such a big push for this. There's different ideas out there, and maybe all of them are true to some degree. Some people I hear saying, well, we want to, respect the health of our children. We don't want to harm our children. So if they're better off identifying as the opposite gender, we need to embrace that and allow them to experience that. Okay, but the fact is that's truly, an extraordinarily rare instance when a person identifies as the wrong gender. Even hermaphrodites, or people who are intersexed, they identify as one gender or the other. They might not even know that they are intersexed or have different than normal genitals. So it's like, okay, why would you want to do that to them? Now, another idea is that there's some sort of nefarious cabal of people who have this plan to reduce the human population by turning everybody to trans or gay or combination of the two, probably some sort of third or 15th gender. I don't know. There's all these different pan, queer, freak, whatever gender that you want to be. And so they're thinking that maybe are people who are pushing this to reduce the population or slow down population growth. That's a fancy idea that was presented in the book The Forever War. If you haven't read it, you could check it out. That was really the only kind of part of it that I liked. The action is boring, but the notion, or the different stages of Earth as it moves into the future, the things that they do to kind of control the human population and the problems that arise on Earth, that was interesting. I think that would take a lot of coordination from a lot of people, and that word would get out that that was what was happening. So I don't think that's the case. I think it's just people going, hey, look, we want to be progressive, and this is the thing that we can do to be progressive. Look, everybody's trans now. Nobody's a actual male or female. Everybody's on a spectrum. There's this spectrum of gender presentation, and I'm gonna go and do another video on that probably on Monday, just because this is just outrageous, ridiculous stuff, and I want to talk about it. Fox News reached out to the HHS for comment, but they did not immediately respond. Yeah, imagine that. I don't know why. I mean, there could be a million different reasons why. Maybe they were busy. Honestly, that happens. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they didn't get the message on time. The new state guidance said that systematic reviews on hormonal treatment for young people show a trend of low-quality evidence, small sample sizes, and medium to high risks of bias. Yeah, that's what we saw when we looked at it, the facts compared to the rhetoric. The state declared that because evidence regarding such treatment is inconclusive but could have long-term irreversible effects, they recommend that social gender transition should not be an available method of treatment for adolescents or younger children, and that puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and gender reassignment surgery should not be used for minors. Yeah, I agree. Current HHS guidance recommends puberty blockers for kids going through puberty, hormone therapy for adolescents, and irreversible gender-affirming surgery on a case-by-case basis for adolescents, but mainly for adults. So there's a bunch of comments down here we could look at. I'm liking Florida more and more every day. The only reason for the HHS continued existence is so it can be cited as a bad example. When my son was 6, he wanted to be a ninja. He actually wanted to be a ninja turtle. But we didn't make him live in a sewer and fight crime. What? What is wrong with these people today? Your kid wants to be a ninja turtle, you're not going to let him fight crime? One of my teachers when I was in college, that was shortly after, no, that was during the release of the prequels, Star Wars prequels. He said his child was being a Wookiee. So did he go out and buy him a Millennium Falcon and get him a bowcaster? That would have been awesome. Make him wear fur coats all the time. Learn a new language. Learn how to speak Wookiee. That'd be so cool. Nope, none of that happened, unfortunately. Any other? I was looking for shorter ones because they're just faster to read. I've read a lot already, but there's a lot of comments here. I'll leave a link to this article. Now, I would want to point out something here that people are saying. There's no way of overcoming this. It's just we can't figure it out. It has to be in the people. It's in them. They're born this way. And I've pointed out several examples of how homosexuality, that supposedly you're born this way, it happens in the womb, etc., 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 doesn't match up to that model or that belief system that it happens in the womb that you're born this way. Let me point out another one. Okay, so after college, I moved to back to Illinois, and I was there working at a job, and I met this girl, and she was gay. And then one day, she came to me, and she said, "You're a miracle." I'm like, "Oh, really? I realized this, but I didn't realize other people knew this." But she says to me, "I'm gay, and I think that's a sin, and I'm in therapy to not be gay, and you are the first man I've been attracted to ever. So, I'm sorry, this is all non-treatable through therapy. It's not some sort of mental disorder. It's not some sort of psychological problem these people have." Okay, yeah, sure, it's not. Everybody talks about how easy it's so easy for you to be a straight. Well, then why don't you be gay? How come you're not attracted to men? If it's just I can't make up my mind who I'm attracted to, and it's just like actually you can. Maybe you can just make up your mind who you're attracted to. Maybe you can just like bounce around between sexual orientations and gender identities. And it doesn't really mean anything unless you want to have babies. So let's move on. Transgender inmate impregnates fellow prisoners in jail. None of us watching this video, me making this video, we didn't see this coming. It was completely out of the blue. How is this possible? How is it possible that a transgender person who, is in every way the opposite gender, could get anyone pregnant? It's funny. This thing here who claims that it is a female is still attracted to women. I've said it, but I should just start identifying as a lesbian trapped in a man's body. Things would probably go a lot easier for me. Be prepared if these progressives get their way, which they very well might. You might have to start doing that if you're a straight man out there. Just be aware. A transgender prisoner has reportedly impregnated 2 fellow inmates at an all-women's prison in New Jersey, United States. Officials at the Edna Mahan prison said the sex was consensual in both instances. The facility began housing transgender inmates last year, including those who have not yet undergone surgery. So far, the facility has 27 transgender prisoners. 27. That's a lot. If we look here, percentage of the population is transgender in 2022. In the United States, about 7% of adults. I'm sorry, 7%, about 0.7% of adults, which is exceedingly high. It's probably more like 0.007% in reality. But, everybody has to play pretend, has to play dress up. Look, I like playing dress up as much as the next guy. Go do your thing. Go as an orc, an elf, an alien, a ghost, whatever. But don't seriously go as the opposite gender. If you want to do it playfully, okay, fine. So this facility, if 0.7% is the correct number, we'll go with it. Just go with it. This facility has a lot of inmates, if 27 of them are transgender. A lot. I'm guessing it doesn't have that many inmates. According to the Daily Mail, Demetrius Minor, 27, who calls itself, or himself, not herself, Demi, is serving 30 years for killing his former foster father, Mr. Butts. I don't know how to say the first name. He is also serving the concurrent 10-year term for a car hijacking incident that took place weeks before the murder. Minor admitted to impregnating the two inmates. One of the pregnant inmates, Latonia Bellamy, 31, who was behind bars for 2010 double murder. Wow, these people wrote an essay on her website stating that she was not violated. This is not the first person who thinks that they are the wrong gender to go to prison. In fact, judge orders first gender reaffirming surgery for transgender inmate in federal custody. An Illinois judge this week ordered the Bureau of Prisons, BOP, to find a qualified surgeon to provide the first ever gender-affirming operation for a transgender inmate in federal custody. This is important here that we say in federal custody, because this is not the first person in prison to have undergone gender reassignment surgery. I believe that honor goes to this person here, Chelsea Manning. Imprisoned former Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning has learned that she will receive gender transition surgery, her lawyer told CNN, in what could make her the first U.S. prison inmate to undergo such a procedure. Dun, dun, dun. And this was in 2016, I believe. Well, this article was written in 2016. Does it say anything on here? The ACLU, God, they're so backwards and evil. Okay, but it is hard not to wonder why it has taken so long. Also, why were such drastic measures needed? The surgery was recommended in April of 2016. The recommendations for my hair length were back in 2014. In any case, I hope this sets a precedent for the thousands of trans people behind me, hoping they will be given the treatment they need. So this is controversial because, hey, guess what? My tax dollars are going to pay for an unnecessary surgery. They've cried and whined and complained and convinced everybody that this is necessary for them to survive. Really, what about all those poor trans people that existed before the operation came along? What about all them? How did they do it? How did they manage? Oh, the humanity. Those people. Oh man. It just must have been just the worst thing ever for them. How did they get through life? Not having the surgery to rearrange their reproductive organs. Not having hormones to inject into their body to make them feel as if they are actually a member of the opposite gender. How did they do it? My tax dollars. Yay. If you're living in America, your tax dollars. Wonderful, United States. You've done such a bang-up job of making a system that is totally unfair. Good job. This can open the door for anybody who wants to transition and can't afford it. This is what the problem is. It's like I have ongoing medical issues. I was born with a condition which requires ongoing treatment. Persistent, ongoing treatment. And at any point in time, any one of you, me, anybody in the entire world could develop a medical condition which requires treatment. Well, hey, here you go. Here's your opportunity. Break the law. You get 3 square meals a day. You don't get rained on. You get cool in the summertime, hot in the wintertime, and all the medical treatment you need. These people need therapy, and that's it. Psychotherapy. As I stated before, this woman that I worked with who thought that being gay was a sin, she went to therapy and finally became attracted to men. Partially thanks to me, partially thanks to her therapy. I always like to say it's all thanks to me. I'm just that manly. I'm going to close with a clip here from a new show that's going to be coming out later this year. It's important that we do not affirm these children. Now, these last 2 things I was talking about here were adults in prison, but referring back to the children and what they've gone through, it's really important that we do not treat these children, especially with anything that is irreversible or can cause irreversible damage or harm.
I am Helena. I'm 23 years old. When I was about 15, I started using Tumblr. I had an eating disorder since I was pretty young. There's a lot of messages that said, if you feel bad about your body, that means you're trans. I was just going through this period of like, I don't like how I'm treated as a cis person. I don't want to be cis because cis means you're uncool and you're privileged and you're an oppressor and you're bad, and I don't want to be that. In that way, I was really incentivized to try to figure out a way to make my voice heard in these communities. And obviously, I can't change my race. I can't really change my sexuality. So the only thing left was to start playing around with the gender stuff. So I decided to call myself a demi-girl, which is one of the 40 million genders. And that basically means that I'm mostly a girl, but I'm a little bit not a girl, which is just like, what does that even mean? And then after that, I went to demi-boy. And then after that, I went to gender fluid. And after that, I eventually went to trans boy. But all this took like 2 or 3 years of just going through this repetitive cycle of changing this identity and changing it again. And it was just never enough. There was a lot of hopelessness for a long time, a lot of regret. The feeling of regret was intense.